Hey YouTube, it is League Turnover today, and Great League, Ultra League, and Master League are on. So the majority of people will play Great League, but instead of just doing like a regular Ultra League teams, I decided to try and look at if you want to play Ultra League but you don't have like XL Pokemon or Legendary Pokemon, what are some options? So what I did was I went through PVPOKE, I got rid of all the XL, I got rid of all the Legendary. I can see Guzzlord on the list. I forgot to get rid of like Mythical, or why is it green? But like the rest of them are all gone, so we'll just ignore Guzzlord. But as you can see, it gets into Pokemon that are just like some community Pokemon as you're gonna go down this list, some Pokemon that just have like really hard moves, and then you got some like kind of unique buff Pokemon down here. So we're gonna quickly go over these rankings, and then I'm gonna give you 5 non-legendary, non-XL teams that you can test out. Okay, so for Alligator, as you can see, this should not come as a shock to you. For Alligator, is basically OP in both Great League and Ultra League. Just the Shadow Claw Hydro Cannon combo is insane, and the good news, but for Alligator, why it's even stronger in the the Ultra League, is that in the Great League, Shadow Claw Hydro Cannon is not going to take out anyways, but you're pretty glassy. Whereas in the Ultra League, you still basically have that 2 Shadow Claw Hydro Cannons to take out with more bulk. So it kind of is pro from that perspective. Aurorus is pretty high ranked in the Ultra League anyways. It's every time I use Aurorus, I'm kind of disappointed in it. It's because it has so many weaknesses. It has 6 weaknesses: double weak to fighting, double weak to steel, single weak to grass, ground, rock, and water, which is a lot of the meta. However, it does have not unique, but a nice moveset in Powder Snow, really fast energy generating, Weather Ball, really spammy with same type attack bonus. And then Meteor Beam, which is a nuke, 2.4 damage per energy for a 60 energy move. With Powder Snow being pretty quick, not only, but 8 turns to get to it, and then 7 on the next. So having a nuke that also boosts your attack is a pretty nice combo there. And in the Ultra League, it gives you some coverage for like the dragons, like Giratina, Guzzlord, and all those that you'll see regularly, plus the flyers are out there. So gives you some nice coverage there. I'll just cover Pangoro and Machamp because they've taken over the place of the fighters, right? Annihilate, Poliwrath were last season, Pangoro, Machamp are this season. Basically, there needs to be some fighting answer. They're the ones that are best with the Karate Chop to put in check steals and normal typings. Pangoro slightly better than Machamp because I think Dark has more play in the Ultra League with all, again, Giratinas, Cresselias, all the ghosts that got buff, stuff like that. So I think Pangoro has a little more play. Florges is your best sort of maybe even one of the best fairies in general. I know Clefable will be up there, but Florges is just like a fairy wind user that hits really hard with Moonblast, and even Disarming Voice is a really nice move. Swampert, the only reason Swampert is in the top 10 is because Mudshot got nerfed. It was basically a top 10, top 20 Pokemon since season 1. Guzzler we're going to skip. And then you get into kind of like unique ones here. A couple that I'm going to highlight are Hippowdon, because I put it on a team. I put the non-shadow one on the team, 45. Just because it's got, this sand attack, which is very similar. I think it's the exact same as a Mudshot clone now. It has a rock weather ball for sort of coverage for your flyers, right? Because Mudshot, sand attack, and scorching sands are resisted. And then you have coverage for your flyers with a rock weather ball. Scorching sands obviously being the one that you want to go for in any neutral situation is a pretty good move. And again, covers your steals and stuff. Walrein, do you know how Dugong works in the Great League? Walrein was the Dugong in the Great League, actually, before, no, Dugong was first. But Walrein was a go-to before Icicle Spear got nerfed. In fact, it was so dominant in the Great League and Ultra League that they had to nerf Icicle Spear. So it still has a lot of play. It's still pretty good. Just think Dugong that's just a low Glacier. And maybe Icicle Spear is faster to get to, but obviously doesn't lower the attack. I did not build with Gengar because it is very glassy. I did not build with Kommo-o. Dragonite, though. If you watch my Ultra League videos for the past many seasons, I always have said Dragonite is, in my opinion, besides Giratina, the best dragon in the meta. Gudra's here now as well, right above. I do have both of them on team. The dragons are generally good in this meta. There are some fairies, but outside the fairies, even steals, you got super power on Dragonite, and you can spam Aqua Tails on Gudra. Plus, Gudra has some bulk, and Dragonite just hits so hard with the Dragon Breath, so those are super strong. And again, another couple community Pokemon, Greninja, Venusaur. whenever the community Pokemon get these Hydro Cannon, Frenzy Plant, they just become super, super strong. So there's options. There's not great options. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to show you some teams here. You are bringing a knife to a gunfight here, right? You are going to be generally glassier than everything, because you're going to be against like level 50 or legendary Pokemon, and you're going to be like level 30 something Pokemon here. Okay. Is Sandslash XL? I can't remember if Sandslash is XL. If it's Sandslash XL, I apologize. But you can just put in other kind of steel Pokemons, because it was basically it was steel ice if there is another one, steel ice, but if not, just go with like a steel. Because basically it was, I started Feraligatr, but Feraligatr is a super strong safe swap, so it can be safe swap. Machamp is one of the best fighters in the meta, so I start with Machamp, Feraligatr, safe swap, so I need something in the back to cover it. And Steel Ice was a good coverage because Machamp is weak to Flying and Fairy. So to cover Flying and Fairy weakness, you put in a Steel Ice. So if it's over level 40, I apologize. But it gives you some coverage against the main meta. Pangoro seems like obviously double weak to fighting. Sandslash, it would be nice to have more like flyer coverage with if you're running Sandslash, or fighter coverage, sorry, like with a flyer. But again, there's not a ton of options in this meta, so you're just gonna have to combo with Feraligatr and Machamp. Actually, Machamp should have very easily beat Pangoro. Speaking about Pangoro, again, start with Walrein, because I was actually just looking at safe swaps, and Walrein is a pretty good safe swap. Same thing, you spam the Icicle Spears, and you have Earthquake for coverage. So Pangoro with it, and then Pangoro is going to be weak to Fighting and Fairy. Again, kind of like Machamp, but you add on, no, not like Machamp. Machamp is Flying and Fairy, I said, and this one is Flying, Fairy, and Fighting. So Skeldurge as an option to try and deal with all of that you would be weak to. So again, kind of a balanced team. Fighter, Water maybe a little tricky, but if it's a Mud Boy, then Walrein will actually be quite better. Actually, Pangoro can do fine against the Mud Boys. What am I talking about? So yeah, pretty balanced team. And the good news about this team, Pangoro's a little glassy, but Walrein and Skeldurge add a little of bulk for non-XL Pokemon. Swampert has been a go-to in the meta for a while now. Obviously with Mudshot nerf, it's a little weaker, but still very, very, very strong. Hydro Cannons, instead of coming 5-4, 5-4, they come 5-5, 5-5. So still a really strong Pokemon. Putting Goodra as your safe swap. Dragon, bulky, has Octail, Thunder Punch, Power Whip, choose your moveset. Dragons are generally just good Pokemon. Yes, there are more fairies now, as you can see, Clefable and Weezing on the top there, but outside of that, you're pretty decent overall. Even against Steels, you can do okay. And then Aurorus was a recommended. So Aurorus is going to cover. So Swampert's weak to double weak to grass, so Goodra will deal with some of that. And then you're going to have Goodra that is weak to like Ice and Fairy. And Aurorus is kind of an interesting one because Aurorus, even though it's weak to grass itself, it is very spammy with the Powder Snow's Weather Balls, which is ice. And then it has Meteor Beam, which is like, again, I kind of covered it in the beginning, a nuke of a move, rock type move, helps you with flyers that Swampert, depending on what the flyer is, like Dragonite, stuff like that, may have problems with. So pretty strong Pokemon. Some bait dependencies on this one. Because a Meteor Beam is such a nuke and Weather Ball is just kind of like an okayish move. But definitely one worth trying out if you are limited on Pokemon. So I start with Florges here because it was the best ranked fairy. And again, it is, if you've seen it before, it's really great. Poisons, steals, those are going to be your two biggest issues. Everything else you can basically, and fires, I guess, technically too, because you wouldn't have any moves for fires. But outside of those three, you can pretty much hit everything. So to kind of deal with all three of those that I just mentioned, Feraligatr is a safe swap, and Hippowdon in the back, again, being one of the better ground type Pokemon in the Ultra League, covering sort of the steals and fire and stuff that I just mentioned that Florges would have problems with. So again, bounce team, don't need to switch out of anything. So again, you do need to switch out of stuff, but it's not like an ABV style team that you have to get out immediately. Florges, as long as it doesn't see, like I said, steel, fire, poison, you can probably just stand with Florges and play it out. If you do see one of those, for alligators, just safe swap, try and flip switch so that Hippowdon can take what's in the back, or like flip it. And Greninja, like another community move. Yeah, I'm sorry there's, well, I'm sorry not sorry, because if you were like, I don't have these community moves, if you don't have XL and you don't have Legendary and you don't have community moves, do not play Ultra League. You will get killed. There's only so much you can do. So yes, Greninja, Venusaur, community moves, which is what makes them super strong. Water Shuriken, one of the fastest, hardest hitting combo in the fast moves in the game. With the Hydro Cannon, having Venusaur for some coverage against your fairies and your fighters, and then Muck as a safe swap. Before there was Drapion, there was Muck. Muck was actually a really go-to safe swap in the early seasons of Ultra League, like seasons like 1 and 2. Really, really strong safe swap. So if you don't have you can't use Drapion because it's XL. I mean, you can because this is open Ultra League, but if you don't want to use Drapion because you don't have one, and you don't have a Skunk Tank, which I think would you probably use next, Drapion is a fine option, non-XL, that you can use. So yeah, something a little bit different. Some of these Pokemon do have play against the open meta, right? Yes, it's a lot of legendaries, and yes, that's a lot of level 50 Pokemon, but a lot of what I showcased here, you have, I can just kind of break it down into, let's see if I can bring this back up here. It's basically broken down to like 3 groups. It's your community Pokemon, which have these super hard hitting fast community moves. For alligators, Swampert, Venusaur, Greninja, all these super hard hitting community Pokemon. The next, and Walrein, because Walrein Icicle Spear is a community move as well. So just it doesn't hit like Hydro Cannon and stuff like that, but it's a pretty solid move that made Walrein relevant. And then there's just Pokemon with good movesets, right? Karate Chop buffed with a nice hard hitting close combat. Fairy Wind buffed with good fairy moves. Karate Chop buffed again. Forget if anything on Hippowdon is buffed. So just got these little buff moves. Go Lurk with Mud Slap here. Donphan with Mud Slap. So just all the buffed moves that happened. And then the third option I like, which I always have play in the Ultra League, are dragons, right? Komao, Gudra, Dragonite. Dragons have always been super, super strong in the Ultra League, mainly because some of your main competition is Giratina. So if you see a Giratina and it's running like Shadow Claw, you have an advantage as a dragon fast move user. So they have always been strong in the meta because of that. So those are the Pokemon that you can potentially use as non-XL, non-legendary. Again, I would recommend, it's like some of these, there's some of these, so I put all these teams together, but there's some of these that, like, if you pair with Ultra League Pokemon, like XL level plus and legendary, you are in a good situation. For example, I would say for alligator, Aurorus I think is overrated, but Pangoro, Ormachamp, Swampert, Skeldurge, Walrein, Gudra Dragonite, Greninja, Venusaur's borderline. Like, if any of those Pokemon you put together with some like Ultra League Pokemon, you are in a pretty good situation. I think all those Pokemon can hold their own in the Ultra League without having to like just do this sort of exercise of no XL, no legendary. Anyways, that is it. I'll probably mostly cover a Great League this week because I think that's what most people will play and watch. But that is basically it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.